My adopted sister accused me of getting her pregnant at 17, and my entire family believed her. I never thought I'd be the type of person to write something like this. Honestly, I didn't think I'd ever want to tell this story at all. But after everything that happened 10 years ago, and after what's been happening recently, I guess I need to get it out. Maybe someone out there will understand. Maybe someone needs to hear that you can survive something like this. My name is Jackson. I'm 27 now, but this story really starts when I was 17. That's when my life ended without me actually dying. It was a Saturday night. One of those family dinners my parents loved to throw when they wanted to show off. We had the whole extended family over, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone. My mom thrived in those moments. She'd get louder, more animated, telling anyone who'd listen about how close our family was, how we always stuck together no matter what. My dad would be outside manning the grill, and my older brother Jake and I would be hauling chairs and setting up tables. Then there was Anne, my adopted sister. My parents brought her home when she was 8 because they'd always wanted a daughter. I was 10 at the time. She was this quiet, shy kid who seemed a little lost at first, but she adjusted fast. Really fast, actually. Within months, it was like she'd always been there. I helped her with homework when she struggled with fractions. I taught her how to ride a bike in our driveway, running alongside her until she got the hang of it. When kids at school made comments about her being adopted, I shut that down immediately. She was my sister. That's all there was to it. That night, though, something felt off about her. She wasn't eating much, just pushing food around her plate. Her hands kept fidgeting, twisting her napkin into knots. I remember thinking maybe she was coming down with something, or maybe she was just tired from school. I didn't think much of it. After dinner, everyone migrated to the living room. My grandma was telling some story about my dad as a kid, and people were laughing. Normal family stuff. Then, and stood up. Just suddenly, in the middle of a conversation, she stood up and her chair scraped against the floor. The room went quiet. Everyone looked at her. Her voice came out shaky, like she was barely holding it together. I need to tell you all something. I can still hear the way her voice cracked. The way the whole room just froze. Jackson, she said, and she was looking right at me. He forced me. I remember blinking. My brain couldn't process what she'd just said. I thought maybe I'd misheard her. Maybe she was talking about something else entirely. Maybe this was some kind of weird joke that I wasn't getting. Then she said, I'm pregnant. Everything after that happened so fast, it's almost a blur. My dad's fist connected with my face before I even had a chance to react. I'd never been hit like that before. Everything went white for a second, and then I was on the floor. My ears were ringing. My teeth felt loose. There was this metallic taste in my mouth that I realized was blood. My mom started screaming. Not at Anne, at me. This raw, guttural screaming like someone had just died right in front of her. My brother was staring at me with this look of pure disgust. What the hell is wrong with you, he said. His voice was shaking. You're disgusting. I tried to say something. Anything. Dad, I didn't. Another hit. This one caught me in the ribs, and I couldn't breathe for a second. You sick bastard, my dad was yelling. His face was red, veins popping in his neck. You brought shame to this family. And was crying now, really sobbing, and my mom was holding her. My aunt rushed over and pulled in close, whispering something about how she was safe now. Everyone was crowding around her, and I was still on the floor, trying to catch my breath, trying to understand what was happening. She's lying. I managed to get out. My voice cracked. I swear to God, she's lying. Nobody was listening. My mom screamed at me not to say Anne's name, not to even look at her. Someone called the police. I think it was my uncle. By the time the cops showed up, I was sitting on the front porch, still bleeding from my mouth. One of the officers asked my dad if I was a suspect, and he just nodded. Didn't even look at me when he did it. They put me in the back of the patrol car. The ride to the station felt like being buried alive. I kept thinking this had to be some kind of nightmare. I'd wake up, and everything would be normal again. At the station, they asked me questions I could barely process. When did it happen? Where were you? Did she say no? I kept saying the same thing over and over. It never happened. None of it happened. I would never do something like that. They didn't book me, though. There was no physical evidence. No proof of anything. And was 16, I was 17, barely a year apart. So they had to investigate it as a potential statutory case. But there was nothing to hold me on. They took statements, called in someone from social services, checked our phone records and timelines. Nothing added up to an actual crime they could charge me with. So they let me go in the morning with a warning to stay available for more questions. But when I walked out of that police station, everything had already changed. Our town wasn't big. Word traveled fast. By sunrise, half the town had already decided I was guilty. I could see it in the way people looked at me. The cop who'd given me a ride back into town didn't even make eye contact. I didn't go straight home. I walked around for hours just trying to process what had happened, trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. Eventually, though, I had to go back. When I got to my house, all my stuff was on the front lawn. Clothes, school books, my backpack, everything just thrown out there like garbage. My dad was standing by the door like a sentry. Get out, he said. His voice wasn't angry anymore. It was worse than that. It was cold. Empty. You're done here. Dad, please, I said. You know me. I would never. Don't call me that. His jaw was tight. You're not my son anymore. I tried to look past him to see if my mom was there. She was standing in the hallway, but when our eyes met, she turned away. She was holding and was crying into her shoulder. Jake appeared behind them and slammed the door in my face. I stood there on my own lawn, looking at my belongings scattered across the grass. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely pick anything up. I stuffed what I could in my backpack and a garbage bag, threw it in my car, and drove away. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. My phone started buzzing that night. It was Emma, my girlfriend. We'd been together for over a year. She knew me better than almost anyone. Jack, she whispered when I answered. She was crying. I believe you. I swear y do. But my parents, they won't let me talk to you. They think it's true. They said if I see you again, they'll call the police. Emma, please. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I can't lose them. I can't. Then she hung up. That was the last time I ever heard her voice. I spent that night in my car behind a gas station 2 towns over. I just sat there in the dark, watching rain streak down the windshield, trying to figure out how my entire life had fallen apart in less than 24 hours. I kept waiting for my dad's truck to pull up, kept thinking he'd realize he'd made a mistake and come drag me home. But nobody came. When the sun came up, I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My face was bruised. My shirt was still stained with blood. And I realized something that felt both obvious and devastating. Nobody was coming to save me. I was completely alone. That's when it really hit me. My family hadn't just kicked me out. They'd erased me. I drove until the gas light came on. I didn't have a plan. Didn't have anywhere to go. I just drove until I couldn't anymore, and I ended up in some town called Maplewood. I'd never heard of it. Didn't matter. I pulled into a parking lot behind a strip of half-empty stores and just sat there, trying to figure out what to do next. I've been living off vending machine snack for days. My hands were shaking from hunger and exhaustion. Then I saw it. A help wanted sign taped to the window of a diner across the street. I stared at that sign for a long time before I found the courage to walk in. The bell above the door jingled when I entered. A man was behind the counter. Broad shoulders, gray beard, face lined with age and hard work. He looked up at me. Can I help you? His voice was rough, gravelly. I saw the sign, I said. My voice came out quieter than I intended. I can wash dishes. Do anything, really. He looked me over. I must have looked like hell. My clothes were wrinkled and dirty. My shoes were caked with mud from sleeping in my car. You ever worked in a kitchen before? No, sir. He grunted. You look hungry. I am fine, ilid. He sighed and nodded toward the back. Name's Andy. Sink's back there. You start now. You get a meal after your shift. That was it. No questions about where I came from or why I looked like I'd been sleeping rough. Just work. The kitchen was small and hot and loud. I scrubbed plates and pans until my hands were raw and my back ached. When closing time came, Andy handed me a half-eaten burger and fries that a customer had left behind. I didn't care. I ate it like I hadn't seen food in weeks. There's a room upstairs, Andy said as I was getting ready to leave. Ain't pretty, but it's got a bed and a lock. You can work it off. I almost cried. Instead, I just nodded. The room was tiny, maybe 10 feet across. The mattress had stains on it, the wallpaper was peeling, and there was a single flickering light bulb hanging from the ceiling. But it had 4 walls and a door that locked. It was more than I'd had in days. I collapsed on that bed and slept for 14 hours straight. Over the next few weeks, I fell into a routine. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. And he didn't talk much, but every once in a while he'd grunt out a good job or nice work, and those 2 words meant more to me than any apology I might have gotten from my family. About 2 weeks in, I came downstairs after a shift to lock up and found Andy sitting at the counter reading the newspaper. He looked up when he saw me. Kid, he said, what's your story? My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Had a customer in here today. Trucker passing through. Said he saw your picture in a paper a couple towns over. Something about a family situation. I started shaking. It's not what it looks like. It's a lie. My sister, my adopted sister, she made it up. I swear I never. Andy raised his hand. Calm down, kid. I stopped, my heart pounding. I don't care what they say, he said simply. You're here. You're working. That's what matters to me. I just stared at him. You don't care? He leaned back. Everybody's got a story. You keep your head down, do your job, rebuild your life. The rest will sort itself out eventually. For the first time since that night at my parents' house, I didn't feel like a monster. Someone actually believed me. Or at least, someone was willing to give me a chance. One night, a few weeks later, I was lying in bed staring at my phone. I still had my mom's number saved. I hadn't called since they'd kicked me out, but I needed to hear her voice. Maybe enough time had passed. Maybe they'd realized and was lying. Maybe they missed me. She answered on the 3rd ring. Mom, it's me, I said quietly. Silence. Jackson, yeah, I just wanted you to know I'm okay. I found a job. Don't call here again. Her voice cracked. Your father doesn't even want your name spoken in this house. Then she hung up. I stared at the phone until the screen went dark. That was the last time I ever tried to reach out. Weeks turned into months. I worked double shifts whenever Andy would let me. I saved every penny I could. Andy started teaching me things beyond the kitchen. How to fix a leaking pipe, patch drywall, check a thermostat when it wasn't working right. Learn to fix things, kid, he'd say. It's the only way to survive. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I searched Anne's name online. There she was, smiling in photos with a round belly, surrounded by family. Pink balloons everywhere that said, "It's a girl." My mom was in the picture, standing beside her, holding a cake shaped like a baby carriage. My brother was in the corner, grinning like nothing had ever happened. I felt sick. My stomach twisted so badly I had to close the laptop. They'd moved on. They'd replaced me. It was like I'd never existed at all. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be Jackson Smith anymore. That version of me was dead, buried by a lie. I threw myself into work even harder after that. I'd arrive before sunrise and stay long after closing. And he noticed. One day, while I was elbow deep in a clogged sink, he said, "You ever thought about learning this stuff for real?" I looked up. Like plumbing. He chuckled. Nah, bigger. HVAC. Heating, cooling, air systems. People always need heat and cold, kid. That skill feeds you forever. Something about the way he said it stuck with me. I wanted something that would last. Something that couldn't be taken away from me. A few weeks later, Andy handed me a flyer from the community college. "Night classes," he said. "You be good at it. Pay what you can. I'll cover the rest until you're on your feet." Nobody had ever done something like that for me. Not even my real family. I signed up the next day. The first few months were brutal. I'd work 10-hour shifts at the diner, then catch a bus to night school, fighting to stay awake through lectures about compressors and refrigerant cycles and ventilation systems. But every time I fixed something, every time cold air came out of a vent that hadn't worked, every time a broken unit roared back to life, it felt like I was fixing myself, piece by piece. And he kept pushing me. "Don't just get good," he'd say. "Get so good they can't ignore you." By the time I earned my GED, I was already halfway through the HVAC certification program. I started taking small repair jobs on the side. Andy's house, the diner's units, a few regular customers. When a certificate came in the mail, Andy hung it up in the diner's hallway like it was his own kid's diploma. "Not bad for a runaway," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. I laughed, even though the words still stung. With Andy's help, I saved enough to buy a used pickup truck and a set of secondhand tools. I quit the diner and started working full-time for a local HVAC company. The work was hard, but it was honest. I was good at it. One summer, a coworker named Derek got accused of stealing cash from a client's kitchen counter. The boss was about to fire him on the spot. Something about the look on Derek's face, the same panic I'd seen in my own mirror years ago, made me step in. "Check the vent," I said. Everyone looked at me like I was crazy. But I climbed up, pulled the cover off, and sure enough, the envelope had been sucked halfway into the duct. The client must have set it too close to the return air. Derek almost cried. The boss apologized to the client. Afterward, Derek shook my hand like I'd saved his life. And he heard about it through a supplier and called me that night. "Good job, kid," he said. "You didn't just fix air. You fixed a mess." That's what separates men from mechanics. That stuck with me. Years passed like that. Work, sleep, eat, work again. It was simple, predictable, safe. But sometimes at night, I come home to my small apartment and feel this hollow space inside me. Like there was a whole other life still buried somewhere that I'd never get back. One night, I was doing invoices, and I made the mistake of opening an old social media account I hadn't touched in years. My hand shook as I logged in. I shouldn't have done it. There they were. My family, smiling, laughing, standing around a birthday cake with a little girl, N's daughter, who looked about 10 years old. My mother was holding her. My dad had his arm around them. My brother was in the background grinning. The caption read, "Happy birthday to our miracle girl. Family is everything." Family. I scrolled through more photos until my chest hurt and looked happy, radiant, like someone who'd never destroyed another person's life. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark, shaking. For years, I'd imagined them falling apart without me. But they didn't. They just replaced me, moved on like I'd never existed. That night, I sat in my truck after my shift and made a decision. I went home and deleted every old account, every trace of the name Smith. I cut ties with the past like cutting a frayed wire. Then I filed paperwork for a legal name change. Jackson Winter. It was my grandmother's maiden name, the only person besides Andy who'd ever shown me real kindness. When a new ID arrived, I stared at it for a long time. The picture looked different, stronger, harder. Not a boy anymore. That was the day I stopped running from what they did to me and started building something they could never destroy. 10 years later, I had my own company, Winter Heating and Air. Just a couple of vans, 3 employees, and a steady list of clients who trusted my work. We weren't fancy, but we were reliable. Life had finally leveled out. I had a routine. I had peace. Then everything cracked open again. It was early summer. I was fixing an old AC unit behind a bakery, sweat running down my back, when my phone started buzzing nonstop. Unknown number. Hometown area code. I ignored it twice. The third time I answered, "Yeah, this is Winter." Silence. Then a voice I hadn't heard in over a decade. "Jackson." My chest tightened. "Who is this?" "It's me, Emma." Everything around me, the fan noise, the street sounds, disappeared. "Emma, how did you?" "I know I shouldn't call," she said quickly, "but I thought you should hear this from someone who actually believes you." My throat closed up. "N's been arrested." I blinked. Arrested for what? For lying. For accusing another guy the same way she did to you. I leaned against the van, suddenly dizzy. "She what?" The guy she accused this time fought back. He got a lawyer, and during the investigation, she confessed to everything, including what she did to you. The words hit like a sledgehammer. I'd imagined this moment for years, but it didn't feel like I thought it would. There wasn't relief, just silence. She told the police she got pregnant from a one-night stand with some dealer named Vernon. He disappeared when she told him. She panicked and blamed you because you were there, because everyone would believe her. I couldn't speak. My hand went numb holding the phone. Jackson, they cleared your name. Officially, I finally managed to say, thank you. I'm married now, she said softly. I have kids, but I never forgot what they did to you. You were the only one who believed me, Emma. You don't have to feel bad about that. We talked for another minute, awkward but gentle. Then she said goodbye. I sat in the van for almost an hour afterward, staring at nothing. My name was cleared, but 10 years too late. By the next morning, the call started. Private numbers. Then emails. My company inbox got one with the subject line, please call us back. Curiosity got me. I answered a number I didn't recognize. Jackson. The voice was shaky. My mother. Don't hang up, please. And told the police everything. We didn't know. I hung up. They didn't know because they didn't care to know. Later that week, my brother emailed saying he'd been young and stupid and hoped we could start over. My dad left a voicemail. We just want to see you, son. We made mistakes. Mistakes. Mistakes are when you forget someone's birthday. What they did was a choice. Instead of replying, I wrote letters. Not the kind they expected. No firgiveness. Just truth. I told them about every night I slept in my car. About the moldy room above the diner. About Andy, the stranger who gave me shelter when my own family threw me away. I told them how it felt to see photos of them smiling around and her daughter while I was washing grease pans for scraps. I ended every letter the same way. You didn't believe me when I told the truth. Now you can live with it. I never mailed them. I just stacked them in a shoebox and left in my desk drawer. That night, I looked around my workshop. The tools, the vans, the company name painted on the wall, all built by my own hands. Everything I'd lost was gone for good, but everything I'd built couldn't be taken from me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel erased. I felt written again. Not by them, but by me. But peace doesn't stay quiet for long. Once the truth about and spread, the same people who'd thrown me away suddenly remembered I existed. It started with a knock on my office door one afternoon. I was working on a thermostat unit when I heard someone call my name. Jackson. I froze, turned around, and there she was, my mom. She looked smaller, older, like someone had drained the life out of her. Her hair was gray at the roots, her hands shaking as she held a casserole dish covered in foil. I made your favorite, she said softly. Chicken and rice. You used to love it. The smell hit me and my stomach twisted. I remember the last time she'd made it. The night before everything exploded. Why are you here? I said. Tears filled her eyes. I just want to see you. To say sorry. We were wrong. On elite. We know that now. You're 10 years too late. I didn't know what to believe back then, she said. She was crying. And your father. You didn't even ask me. I cut her off. You didn't let me speak. You kicked me out and told me never to call again. She stepped closer. Please, Jack. Don't call me that, I snapped. You lost that right. She flinched like the words had physically hit her. You should go, I said, pointing at the door. She hesitated, setting the casserole on the counter. At least eat this. Please. I stared at it. Throw it out when you leave. When the door closed, I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just nothing. 2 days later, my dad showed up. I was out on a service call when I saw him waiting by the office, leaning against his truck like he owned the place. Hey, son, he said with a smile. Like we just had a regular argument years ago. I didn't answer. You've done good for yourself, he said, looking around. Business, trucks, employees. I'm proud of you. Get to the point. He shifted. Your mother's not doing great. She cries every day. I figure maybe if we all sat down. Clear the air. I almost laughed. You beat me and threw me out. You left me homeless. You cleared the air that night when you told me I wasn't your son. He sighed, frustrated. I was angry. You have to understand, it looked bad. So you hit first. Asked questions, never. His face tightened. You don't have to keep holding on to hate, son. I'm not holding on to hate, I said, pulling out my phone. I'm holding on to self-respect. What are you? I pressed a button. Security. I got someone trespassing at the front. Big guy in a red jacket. His expression changed instantly. You're calling security on your own father? You're not my father, I said. You're a stranger who ruined my life. The security guard came over a few minutes later and asked him to leave. Dad muttered curses all the way to his truck and peeled out of the lot. When the silence returned, I just sat at my desk, staring at the spot where he'd stood. Meanwhile, bits of gossip reached me. My family was falling apart. Dad had lost his job after yelling at his supervisor. Mom barely left the house. My brother's wife had taken their kids and moved in with her parents after finding out what had happened to me. Everything they'd built was cracking. One afternoon, my employee Kevin brought in a small box. Hey boss, this was outside. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. My name, Jackson Smith, written on every one in shaky handwriting. I didn't need to open them to know who they were from. I carried the box to the back room, set it on a shelf, and walked away. That night, I thought about all the words inside those letters. Probably apologies, excuses, maybe Bible verses about forgiveness. But forgiveness is a luxury for people who didn't spend nights in their car wondering why nobody believed them. I didn't want closure. I wanted distance. So I left the letters sealed. Every last one. They wanted forgiveness because it would make them feel lighter. Not because they deserved it. They didn't want me. They wanted redemption. And I wasn't giving it to them. I thought that was it. The end. But 3 months later, I got another letter. Plain white envelope. No return address. Inside was a single sheet. And William's request to meet with you at Maple Ridge Correctional Facility. I stared at it for a long time. Then I threw it away. Then pulled it out. Then threw it away again. But the thought stuck. For 10 years, I'd imagined what I'd say to her if I ever saw her again. Maybe it was time to find out. A week later, I drove to the prison. 2 hours away, middle of nowhere. The guard scanned my ID, buzzed me through, led me into a gray visiting room that smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. I sat at a metal table, hands flat on the surface. Other people around me whispered quietly. Wives, kids, parents. All visiting people they still cared about. I wasn't one of them. Then she walked in. I barely recognized her. Thinner, almost fragile. Her skin was pale, hair pulled back tight, face lined and exhausted. The girl who'd once cried in front of our family looked like a ghost now. She sat across from me, eyes flicking up once before dropping to the table. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. I didn't answer. "You look different," she said. "Older." "You look guilty," I said. Her eyes filled immediately. "I deserve that." "No," I said calmly. "You deserve worse." She nodded slowly, tears building. "I know, and I'm sorry. For everything. For lying. For ruining your life. For all of it." "Why?" I asked. "Why me?" She looked down. "Because you were safe to blame. You were quiet. You never fought anyone. I knew everyone would believe me because you were the good one, the easy one, and I panicked." I leaned forward. "You panicked, so you destroyed my life. You panicked, so you made your own brother the villain." Her shoulders shook. "I didn't think it would go that far. I thought maybe you'd deny it, and people would forget, and I'd get sympathy until I figured something out." "Sympathy," I repeated. "You got that. You got a house full of people loving you, protecting you, throwing parties for you while I slept in a car behind a gas station." She pressed her palms to her eyes. I know what I did." "Vernon," she said, her breath catching. "Vernon was the guy who got me pregnant. He was a dealer. I slept with him once. When I told him, he laughed. Said if I told anyone, he'd disappear. And he did. I didn't know what to do. So I blamed you. Because you were there." I just stared at her. I didn't even feel angry anymore. Just hollow. "You ruined my life," I said quietly. "Do you understand that? You stole everything from me. My family. My girlfriend. My name. You made me into a monster. You made me afraid to trust anyone again." She was crying, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "I've thought about you every day in here. I hate myself for it. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see your face from that night." "Good," I said flatly. "You should see it. You should never stop seeing it." She looked up desperate. "There's something else. My daughter. They never told her the truth. Mom said it would confuse her to change the story now. So she still thinks it's you." "You still here, stunned." She nodded weakly. "They said she's too young to understand. That admitting they were wrong would just open old wounds. They'd rather keep the lie than face what they did. She asks about you sometimes, and said, she's seen your photo, old ones from before. She wonders why you never came around." That hit harder than anything else. Somewhere out, there was a kid, not mine, walking around believing the same lie that destroyed me. I stood up. My chair scraped the floor. A few people turned to look. "You don't get to tell me that," I said. "You don't get to throw that on me now, like it's something I can fix." She reached out, trembling. "I am sorry, Jackson. I really am. I can't undo it. I just needed you to know." I looked at her and felt nothing. Not relief. Not closure. Just the end of something. "You took 10 years from me," I said quietly. "I hope you never sleep peacefully again." She was crying hard now. "I deserve it. All of it." I leaned down slightly, met her eyes one last time. "You do." Then I turned and walked out. The guards didn't say a word as they buzzed the door open. I got in my truck, sat there gripping the wheel, staring at the fence. I thought I'd feel free after seeing her. Like I'd won somehow. But I didn't. There was no victory. Just exhaustion. Some things don't fix when the truth finally shows up. Some things stay cracked. But as I started the engine and pulled away, I realized something. Walking away, not forgiving, not exploding, just leaving, that was its own kind of power. For the first time, I didn't feel erased. I felt finished. A year passed after that prison visit, and life settled into something that finally made sense. I sold my old house and bought a new one just outside the city. 3 bedrooms, fenced yard. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Every wall paid for with work I'd earned myself. Then there was Rachel. I met her through a client. She was a graphic designer redoing my company logo. I didn't plan on dating anyone, but she had this calm about her. She didn't ask too many questions about my past. Just said, whatever it was, you're not that guy anymore. We'd been together a year. She moved in with her cat. I got a rescue dog named Edgar. The house finally felt alive. Then one morning, An envelope came. No return address. Inside was a note from David Kinderson, the second man and had accused. Mr. Winter, it read, I'm filing a civil case against and for defamation and emotional damage. You deserve that justice too. My lawyer says your testimony would help both of us. If you're interested, call me. I called him that afternoon. We met at a coffee shop the next day. He shook my hand like we'd known each other our whole lives. Feels weird, doesn't it? He said. Being connected by something that messed us both up. Yeah, I said, but I guess we both survived it. When he asked if I wanted in on the lawsuit, I didn't hesitate. I'm in. The case took months, but this time I wasn't running or hiding. I showed up in court, sat across from and told the truth. Calm, steady, without anger. I didn't even look at my family when I spoke, even though I could feel their eyes on me from the back of the courtroom. The lawyers laid everything out. The false accusations, the manipulation, the emotional damage, the proof that she'd done it twice. When the judge finally ruled, the courtroom went silent. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt lighter than I ever had. My reputation was officially clean, but it was more than that. It was like a ghost had finally stopped following me. For once, my name wasn't buried in shame. It stood next to words like truth, justice, vindication. Then the voicemail came that IT was late, almost midnight. I was finishing invoices in my office when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hometown area code. I almost ignored it, but it went to voicemail and something made me listen. Son, it's Dad. His voice sounded weak, raspy. I don't know if this number is even right anymore. Your mother found it online. I don't have much time. The doctors say it's cancer. Stage 4. I don't want anything, I swear. I just want to see you one last time before it's too late. There was a long pause, then a shaky breath. Please. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please, son. The message ended that I sat there for a minute, staring at the phone. Then I hit play again. Listen to his voice crack. Listen to him call me son like he hadn't stripped that word away from me 10 years ago. Then I deleted it. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. Just nothing that I remember the night he punched me. The look in his eyes when he told me I wasn't his son anymore. I remembered sleeping in my car behind a gas station, tasting blood and rain. I remembered every single person who should have protected me turning their backs. Instead, that he chose his truth then. I was choosing mine now that I sat back in my chair and looked around my office. At the framed certificates on the wall. At the company logo Rachel had designed. At the schedule board showing next week's jobs. They threw me out into the cold once. I whispered to myself. Now I fix other people's air. That's irony, I guess. And peace. Rachel came into the office a few minutes later, carrying 2 mugs of tea. You okay? She asked, setting one down in front of me. I looked up at her. At this person who'd chosen to be in my life without knowing the broken kid I used to be. Who loved the man I'd built myself into. Yeah, I said, and I meant it. I'm okay. She kissed the top of my head and went back to the living room. Edgar padded into the office and laid down at my feet. Outside, I could hear the wind picking up, rattling the windows. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I didn't even look at it this time. Just silenced it and turned back to my invoices. Over the next few weeks, more calls came. More voicemails. I heard through Kevin, who'd heard from a supplier, who'd heard from someone in my hometown, that my dad was getting worse. That he was asking for me. That my mom was beside herself, begging anyone who might know how to reach me to pass along a message. That I didn't respond to any of it. One afternoon, I was under a sink at a client's house when Kevin called. Boss, there's someone at the office. Says she's your aunt. I paused, wrench in hand. Tell her I'm on a job. I did. She says she'll wait. I finished the repair, packed up my tools, and drove back slowly. Part of me wanted to just go home. But another part, the part that had spent 10 years building something that couldn't touch, wanted to face this head on. When I pulled into the lot, I saw her car. My Aunt Linda. She'd been there that night, pulling in close, whispering that she was safe now. She was standing by the office door, looking older than I remembered. When she saw me, her face crumpled. Jackson, she said. It's Winter now, I said, walking past her to unlock the door. Jackson Winter. She followed me inside. Your father is dying. I heard. He's asking for you. You want to make things right before what? I turned to face her. Before he dies, feeling guilty? Before he has to face whatever he believes comes after without getting forgiveness from the son he disowned. She flinched. He made a mistake. A mistake, I repeated. You were all there. You all watched him beat me. Throw me out. Not one of you asked if maybe, just maybe, and was lying. Not one. She was so convincing, Linda said weakly. She was crying, and she was just a child. I was a child too, I said. My voice was steady, but there was steel in it. I was 17 years old, and you all decided I was guilty without a single shred of evidence. You decided I was a monster because it was easier than questioning the story. She was crying now. I am sorry. We're all sorry. Your father, your mother, Jake, we all are. We were wrong, and destroyed this family with her lies. No, I said. An elite. But you all chose to believe her. You all chose to throw me away. She didn't destroy the family. You did. All of you. Linda wiped her eyes. He's your father, Jackson. Whatever happened, he's still your father. Don't you think he deserves a chance to apologize? To make peace. I walked to the window, looked out at the parking lot, at my vans with my company name on them, at the life I'd built from nothing. You want to know what I think he deserves? I turned back to her. I think he deserves exactly what he gave me. Nothing. Jackson, please. When I was sleeping in my car, where was he? When I was washing dishes for scraps, where was he? When I changed my name because I couldn't stand being associated with this family anymore, where was he? My voice wasn't loud, but every word landed like a hammer. He was at home, with Anne, with all of you, pretending I never existed. We didn't know. You didn't want to know, I said. There's a difference. Linda stood there for a moment, then reached into her purse. She pulled out a photo and set it on my desk. This is him. Last week. I glanced down. My father, shrunken and gray, in a hospital bed. Tubes everywhere. He looked like a shadow of the man who'd hit me. He carries a picture of you, Linda said quietly. For when you were 15. Before everything. He looks at it every day. I picked up the photo she'd left, looked at it for a second, then handed it back to her. He can keep doing that. I don't care. You really won't come? Not even once. No. What do I tell him? I thought about that for a moment. Tell him I'm happy. Tell him I built a good life. Tell him I did it without him, without any of you. And tell him that I hope, in whatever time he has left, he thinks about that night. About the choice he made. About the son he threw away. Linda's face crumpled completely. She put the photo back in her purse with shaking hands. I always liked you, Jackson. Even when you were little. You were such a sweet kid. That kid died 10 years ago, I said. The man standing here is someone else. She nodded slowly, then walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the handle. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I should have asked. I should have questioned it. I was wrong. Yeah, I said. You were. After she left, I sat at my desk for a long time. Kevin poked his head in once, saw my face, and quietly closed the door again. Rachel called around 6. You coming home for dinner? Yeah, I said. I'll be there soon. You okay? You sound off. Just a long day. I'll tell you about it later. When I got home, the smell of Rachel's cooking filled the house. Edgar bounded up to greet me, tail wagging. The cat meowed from her perch on the bookshelf. Rachel came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She took one look at my face and wrapped her arms around me. Didn't ask questions. Just held me. My aunt came by today. I said into her shoulder. My dad's dying. Cancer. She pulled back to look at me. Do you want to go see him? No. Okay. That was it. No judgment. No lecture about forgiveness or family. Just acceptance that we ate dinner and I told her everything. About the visit from my aunt. About the photo. About the calls and voicemails I'd been ignoring. I don't feel guilty, I said, surprised by my own words. I thought maybe I would. But I don't. Why would you feel guilty? Rachel asked. They made their choice. Now you're making yours. Some people would say I'm being cruel, that I should be the bigger person. She reached across the table and took my hand. Some people didn't live through what you did. You don't owe them anything, Jack. Not forgiveness. Not closure. Not a damn thing. I squeezed her hand. Thank you. That night, lying in bed with Rachel asleep beside me and Edgar snoring at our feet, I thought about my father in that hospital bed. I tried to feel something, anger, sadness, even satisfaction that karma had caught up with him. But there was just nothing. He was a stranger to me now. Had been for 10 years. 2 weeks later, Kevin mentioned he'd heard my father had passed. I nodded and went back to the estimate I was writing. I didn't go to the funeral. Didn't send flowers. Didn't acknowledge it at all. A week after that, another letter arrived. My mother's handwriting. I recognized it immediately. This time, I didn't even open it. Just dropped it straight into the recycling bin. Rachel saw me do it. From them. Yeah. Good, she said. Life went on. Spring turned to summer. Business was good. Rachel and I started talking about maybe getting married. Edgar learned a new trick. The cat remained indifferent to everything, as cats do. One Saturday afternoon, I was at the hardware store picking up supplies when I ran into an old high school friend. Tommy. We played basketball together back when I was still Jackson Smith. He recognized me instantly, even though it had been over a decade. Jackson? Holy shit, man. I heard you were. I heard what happened with Anne. That she lied. Man, I'm sorry. We all believe it's fine, I said. Not because it was, but because I didn't want to have this conversation in the middle of a hardware store. No, it's not fine, Tommy said. He looked genuinely upset. We should have known. You weren't that kind of guy. I should have reached out. Should have. Tommy. I interrupted gently. It's in the past. I'm good now. Really. He studied my face. You look good, man. Different, but good. You look solid. I am, I said. And I meant it that we exchanged numbers, though I knew I probably wouldn't call. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. Not because of anger, but because there's just nothing there anymore. That night, Rachel and I were sitting on the back porch, watching the sun go down. Edgar was chasing fireflies in the yard. I ran into someone from high school today, I said. He apologized. For believing Anne. How did that feel? I thought about it. Like getting an apology for something that happened to someone else. Does that make sense? She nodded. The person they hurt doesn't exist anymore. You're someone new now. Exactly. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm proud of you, for building this life. For not letting them break you. They did break me, I said quietly. But I put myself back together. Just differently. Better, she said. Maybe. We sat there in comfortable silence as the sky turned purple, then navy, then black. Stars came out. Edgar finally tired himself out and collapsed at our feet, panting happily. This was my life now. This peace, this quiet, this home I'd built with my own hands. No lies could touch it. No false accusations could take it away. No family drama could shake its foundation that I'd spent 10 years running from what they did to me. Then another year learning to stand still. And now, finally, I was just living, not as Jackson Smith, the kid they threw away, but as Jackson Winter, the man who survived. Months turned into a year. Then another. The calls stopped coming. The letters stopped arriving. My family, or what was left of them, finally seemed to understand that I wasn't coming back. That there was no reconciliation waiting at the end of this story. No tira fel reunion. No forgiveness scene, just silence. And distance. And peace. Rachel and I got married on a Saturday in October. Small ceremony, just a handful of friends. Andy flew in and walked me down the aisle, because if anyone had earned that honor, it was him. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, I half expected my mother to burst through the doors like something out of a movie. But the doors stayed closed. Andy gave a toast at the reception. I met Jack when he was just a kid with nothing but a backpack and a story I didn't need to hear, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I gave him a sink to wash dishes in. He turned it into an empire. That's not luck. That's character. That's the kind of man he is. Everyone raised their glasses. I had to wipe my eyes that night, lying in a hotel room with my wife. My wife. I thought about 17-year-old me, sleeping in a car behind a gas station, thinking my life was over. If I could go back and tell that kid that everything would be okay, that he'd survive this, that he'd build something beautiful from the ashes, I don't know if he would have believed me. But it would have been true. 2 years after the wedding, Rachel and I had a son. We named him Andrew, after Andy. When I held him for the first time, I made a promise. This kid would never doubt he was wanted, would never question if I believed him, would never be thrown away for something he didn't do. He would know what real family looked like. Andy passed away when Andrew was 3. Peacefully, in his sleep, he left me the diner in his will, along with a note that just said, "You earned this. Make it something good." I kept it running for a year, then sold it to one of the longtime waitresses who'd worked there for 20 years. She promised to keep Andy's name on the sign. That felt right. With the money from the sale, I expanded winter heating and air. More vans, more employees, a real office building instead of the small shop I'd been working out of. We started doing commercial jobs, big installations that I was successful. Actually successful. The kind of successful that 17-year-old me couldn't have imagined his wildest dreams. And through it all, my family, my old family, remained ghosts. I'd hear things occasionally, through distant channels. My mother moved in with Jake after my father died, and got out of prison after serving her time, moved across the country, apparently trying to start over. Jake's wife eventually came back to him, though their marriage never really recovered. None of it touched me. They were strangers who happened to share DNA with someone I used to be. One afternoon, when Andrew was 5, he asked me about grandparents. His friend at school had been talking about visiting his grandma. "Do I have grandparents?" he asked, looking up at me with Rachel's eyes and my nose that I knelt down to his level. "You had one. Great Uncle Andy. He passed away before you were old enough to really know him, but he was the best person I ever met. What about your mom and dad?" I thought carefully about how to answer. Sometimes people make choices that hurt other people really badly. When that happens, sometimes the healthiest thing to do is to let them go. My parents made some choices that hurt me when I was young, so I chose to build my own family instead. He processed this with the seriousness only a 5-year-old can muster. "Is that why we're the Winter family?" "Exactly. I like being a Winter," he said, and ran off to play with his trucks. Rachel had been listening from the kitchen doorway. She came over and hugged me from behind. "That was perfect," she whispered. "I don't want him to carry any of that," I said. "None of it was his burden to bear." "He won't," she said. "You're breaking the cycle." And I was. Every day, in small ways, I was being the parent I'd needed. The parent I'd never had. Andrew's 8th birthday party was on a Saturday. The backyard was full of kids running around, parents chatting, birthday cake waiting. I was manning the grill. Learned that from watching my dad. Ironically, when Rachel came up beside me. "There's someone at the front door," she said quietly. "Says she's your mother." My hand tightened on the spatula. "What?" I didn't let her in. "She's just standing on the porch. Says she just wants to talk for a minute." I looked at the yard. At my son, laughing with his friends. At the life I'd built. Then I looked at Rachel. "Can you take over here?" She took the spatula. "You want me to come with you?" "No. I got this." I walked through the house and out the front door. And there she was. My mother. Ancient now. Or at least that's how she looked. Hunched over a cane. White hair thin and wispy. Face lined with age and what might have been regret. "Jackson," she said when she saw me. "How did you find me?" "Your Aunt Linda." She kept track. She thought. She hoped maybe enough time had passed. It hasn't. She nodded slowly. "I heard you have a son. I saw the balloons. You need to leave." I know I have no right. I am dying, Jackson. Just like your father did. And I wanted to see you one more time. To tell you I'm sorry. To tell you I was wrong." From the backyard, I could hear Andrew's laugh. high and pure and completely untouched by any of this history. You were wrong, I agreed. You were all wrong. And I forgive you. Hope flashed across her face. You do. I forgive you, I repeated, because holding on to anger was poisoning me. But forgiveness doesn't mean I want you in my life. It doesn't mean I've forgotten. It doesn't mean we're family again. It just means I'm letting go of the weight. Not for you. For me. The hope drained away. I understand. My son will never know you. He'll never know what you did. He'll grow up knowing he has a father who believes him, who protects him, who would never throw him away. That's her legacy. The life I built in spite of you. She was crying now, silently, tears running down her weathered face. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But it's too late. Some things can't be fixed. Some things stay broken even when everyone's sorry. I turned to go back inside. She called after me. You were always a good boy, Jackson. I should have believed you. I paused, hand on the doorknob. Didn't turn around. His name is Andrew. My son. And yeah, you should have. Then I walked back inside, closed the door, and returned to my son's birthday party. Rachel looked at me questioningly. I shook my head, later, and took the spatula back. Who was that, Dad? Andrew asked, running up with frosting on his face. Just someone from a long time ago, I said. Nobody important. He accepted that and ran back to his friends. Because to him, I was trustworthy. My word was truth. And that right, there was everything, as the sun set on my son's birthday. I stood in the backyard I owned, in front of the grill I'd paid for, surrounded by the family I'd chosen, and I realized something. I'd won. Not because they'd finally admitted they were wrong. Not because I'd gotten revenge or justice or vindication. Though all of that had come out, I'd won because I was happy. Because I'd built something real and true and good from the wreckage they'd left me in. Because the man I'd become was someone that 17-year-old kid would have been proud of if they'd tried to erase me. Instead, I'd rewritten myself. And this time, I'd written a story worth living. Rachel came up beside me, sliding her arm around my waist. You okay? I looked at her. At Andrew. At our home. At our life. Yeah, I said. I really am. And I meant it. Not because the past didn't hurt anymore. It did. It probably always would, at least a little. But because I'd learned something that 17-year-old kid hadn't known yet. You can survive the unsurvivable. You can build something beautiful from ashes. You can be thrown away and still become something worth keeping. I'd started as Jackson Smith, the accused. Became Jackson Smith, the abandoned. Then Jackson Winter, the survivor. And now, I was just Jack. Husband. Father. Business owner. Friend. The past couldn't touch me anymore. Not because I'd forgotten it, but because I'd outgrown it. Later that night, after all the guests had left and Andrew was asleep in his bed, I sat in my home office looking at a photo on my desk. Me, Rachel, and Andrew at the beach last summer. All of us laughing, sun-kissed, and happy. I thought about writing one more letter. To my mother, and to my father's memory, to everyone who'd been part of that night. One final statement about where I stood, how I felt, what they'd lost. But then I realized I didn't need to. They already knew. And more importantly, it didn't matter anymore. Their opinions, their guilt, their regrets. None of it had power over me. I'd spent 10 years running from what they did. Then years learning to stand still. Then more years learning to forgive. Not for them, but for me. And now, finally, I was just living. Actually living. Not as the kid they threw away, but as the man who refused to stay discarded. I turned off the light, went to bed, and slept soundly. No nightmares. No ghosts. Just peace. And in the morning, I'd wake up, make breakfast for my family, and go fix someone's air conditioning. Because that's what I do. I fix things that I fix air. I fix homes. And somewhere along the way, I fixed myself. They erased me once. But I rebuilt myself. And this time, I built something they could never touch. Something real. Something mine. This is my story. This is how it ends. Not with revenge or reconciliation. Not with explosions or dramatic confrontations. Just with a man, a family he chose, and a life he earned. That's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything.
Catch you again soon.